The massive alien ships appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system on a Tuesday morning. They hung in space like dark metal mountains, casting shadows across the asteroid belt. Admiral Dong-Soo Kim watched the radar screens in the hidden command center buried deep under Seoul. His face showed no emotion, but his hands were steady on the control panel. "How many ships?" he asked quietly. 47 large vessels, sir," replied Lieutenant Ye Jin-ko from her station. "Each one is about 3 kilometers long. They're just sitting there watching us." Dr. Hannah Park looked up from her computer. She had been studying the alien signals for the past 5 years, ever since Earth's deep space monitors first detected them. "They're scanning our planet, looking at our cities, our military bases, our technology." Dong-Soo nodded. This was exactly what they had prepared for. The aliens thought they were discovering a weak, divided world. They had no idea that humanity had been getting ready for this moment since the first alien radio signals were detected. On the surface, the world's leaders were calling emergency meetings. Television news showed panic in the streets. Stock markets crashed. Religious leaders prayed. Military generals appeared on camera, looking worried and confused. But this was all an act, a carefully planned show. The real action was happening in places the aliens could not see. Hidden shipyards on the dark side of the moon worked at full speed. Secret bases in hollow asteroids prepared their weapons, and in underground bunkers like this one, humanity's best minds coordinated their response. "Sir, we're getting a transmission," Ko announced. "It's coming from the largest alien ship." "Put it through," Dong-Soo ordered. The main screen flickered, then showed a creature that looked like a cross between a lizard and an insect. Its skin was gray and bumpy with 4 eyes that glowed red. When it spoke, the computer translated its words into Korean, then English. "Primitive beings of the 3rd planet," the alien said, its voice deep and threatening. "I am Commander Thexval of the Velkari hegemony. Your world now belongs to us. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. Lay down your weapons. Prepare your people for relocation to work camps. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your species." The transmission ended. The command center was silent for a moment. "Work camps," Hannah said with disgust. "They've done this before. Many times." Dong-Soo stood up and walked to the large wall display that showed Earth and its surrounding space. Red dots marked the alien ships. Blue dots marked humanity's hidden forces, invisible to alien sensors. "Captain Lee, what's the status of Seoul's Pride?" he asked into his communicator. Captain Taemin Lee's voice came through clearly. "We're in position, sir. The stealth systems are working perfectly. They can't see us even though we're only 50 kilometers from their flagship. Seoul's Pride was humanity's most advanced warship, built in secret using technology that had taken decades to develop. It was completely invisible to radar, heat sensors, and even visual observation. Right now it was floating next to the alien command ship like a ghost. Good. Stay hidden and keep watching. Record everything they do." On the surface, world leaders were meeting in emergency sessions. The President of the United States appeared on television looking tired and scared. The Prime Minister of Britain spoke about the need for calm. The leaders of China, Russia, and India all gave speeches about humanity's dark future. But Dong-Soo knew the truth. These leaders were acting. They were buying time and making the aliens think Earth was weak and divided. The real decisions were being made by people like him, in hidden command centers around the world. "Sir," Hannah said, "I've been studying the biological data from their transmission. These Velkari have some interesting weaknesses." She brought up images on her screen showing the aliens' internal structure. "They're cold-blooded like reptiles. That means they move slowly in cold temperatures. Also, their eyes are adapted for low light. Bright flashes would blind them temporarily." "What about their technology?" Dong-Soo asked. "Advanced but predictable. They use standard energy shields and plasma weapons. Nothing we haven't seen in their signals over the past 5 years. I think they've been using the same technology for centuries without major improvements." This was exactly what Dong-Soo had hoped to hear. The aliens were powerful, but they had become lazy. They expected easy victories against primitive worlds. They had no idea that this primitive world had been studying their technology and preparing countermeasures. Meanwhile, Captain Taemin Lee watched the alien flagship from his invisible ship. Through Seoul's Pride's advanced sensors, he could see inside the alien vessel. Hundreds of Velkari moved through the corridors preparing for what they thought would be an easy conquest. "They're getting ready to land troops," he reported to Dongsu. "I count about 50 transport ships being prepared. Each one can carry maybe 1,000 soldiers." "Let them come," Dongsu replied. "General So Young Choi is ready for them." On Earth's surface, General So Young Choi was indeed ready. Her forces were hidden in underground bunkers and mountain caves around the world. The aliens would see empty cities and abandoned military bases. They would think humanity had already given up. The 72-hour deadline was ticking down. News reports showed crowds of people fleeing the cities. Governments appeared to be collapsing. Military units seemed to be abandoning their posts. But in reality, this was the largest coordinated deception in human history. Every fleeing civilian was actually a soldier moving to a hidden position. Every abandoned base was now a trap waiting to be sprung. Every panicking government was actually in perfect communication with Dongsu's command center. As the deadline approached, Commander Thexval watched from his flagship. He saw exactly what he expected to see. A divided, primitive world falling apart in the face of superior alien technology. The humans were acting exactly like the dozens of other species the Velkari had conquered over the centuries. "Sir," his aide reported, "the human governments are trying to negotiate. They're asking for more time and offering to discuss surrender terms." Thexval made a sound that might have been laughter. "Of course they are. They all do this. Let them beg for a few more hours. It makes the conquest more satisfying." But down in his hidden command center, Admiral Dongsu Kim was smiling for the first time in days. The aliens had taken the bait completely. They thought they were dealing with a weak, frightened species. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "All units," he spoke into his communicator. "This is Admiral Kim. The enemy has revealed their positions and their plans. They think we're helpless. In 18 hours, we show them what humanity really looks like when we're prepared for war." Around the world, in hidden bases and secret facilities, thousands of soldiers and scientists received the message. The deception phase was almost complete. Soon it would be time for the Velkari to see Earth's true face. The countdown to humanity's real first contact had begun. The Velkari invasion fleet moved toward Earth like a dark cloud. Commander Thexval stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue planet grow larger on his screens. Behind him, 46 other warships followed in perfect formation. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a city. "The humans have gone completely silent," reported his communications officer. "No more desperate messages begging for mercy. I think they've given up." Thexval nodded with satisfaction. This was always how it ended. The primitive species would fight at first, then panic, then fall into helpless silence as they realized how outmatched they were. Soon Earth would be just another slave world in the Velkari Empire. But 50 kilometers away, invisible to all alien sensors, Captain Taemin Lee watched from the Bridge of Soul's Pride. His ship's stealth technology made it completely undetectable. The aliens had no idea that a human warship was floating right next to their command vessel. "Sir," whispered his weapons officer, "we have a perfect shot at their bridge. We could end this right now." Taemin shook his head. "Not yet. We stick to the plan. Wait for Admiral Kim's signal." Deep underground, Admiral Dongsu Kim monitored the alien approach from his command center. Hundreds of screens showed the positions of both fleets. The aliens were moving in a tight formation, exactly as predicted. They thought they were hunting helpless prey. They had no idea they were flying into the most carefully planned ambush in human history. "All stealth units report," he commanded. One by one, the reports came in, Soul's Pride in position. Beijing's Fury standing by. London's Ghost ready for combat. Moscow's Shadow awaiting orders. 12 invisible ships surrounded the alien fleet, each one armed with humanity's most advanced weapons. The aliens had detected none of them. "Ground forces ready?" "Sir," reported General So Young Choi from her hidden bunker in the Swiss Alps. "They think our cities are empty, but we have 50,000 soldiers waiting in underground positions. The moment they land, we'll hit them from every direction." On the surface, Earth's major cities did look empty. New York, London, Tokyo, Seoul all appeared abandoned. The alien scanners showed no signs of organized military resistance. Streets were quiet. Buildings seemed deserted. It was exactly what the Velkari expected to see from a conquered world. But beneath those empty streets, in subway tunnels and basement bunkers, thousands of human soldiers waited. Every building the aliens thought was abandoned actually contained hidden weapons and fighters. The seemingly deserted cities were actually enormous traps. Lieutenant Yejin Ko's fingers flew over her keyboard as she monitored alien communications. "Sir, I've broken their command codes. They're planning to land troops in 12 major cities simultaneously. They expect no resistance at all." "Perfect," Dongsu said. "The more confident they are, the bigger the shock will be." High above Earth's atmosphere, the alien fleet began to slow down. Commander Thexaval was pleased to see that the human orbital defenses were completely quiet. No weapons fired at his ships. No fighter craft rose to meet them. The humans had clearly given up all hope of resistance. "Begin landing operations," he ordered. "Deploy troops to the major population centers. Remember, we need the humans alive to work in the mines and factories. Try not to damage too much of their infrastructure." 50 transport ships separated from the main fleet and headed toward Earth's surface. Each one carried 1,000 Velkari soldiers equipped with energy weapons and personal shields. They expected to find frightened human civilians hiding in their homes. Instead, they were about to walk into a nightmare. The first transport ship landed in the center of Manhattan. As the doors opened and Velkari soldiers poured out, the street seemed completely empty. The aliens spread out in standard formation, their weapons ready for any desperate human attacks. That was when General So Young Choi gave the signal. Every building in a 6-block radius suddenly came alive. Windows that had seemed dark and empty blazed with muzzle flashes. Manhole covers flew open as human soldiers emerged from the sewers. Rooftops revealed hidden gun positions that had been invisible moments before. The Velkari soldiers found themselves surrounded by enemies they couldn't see, attacked from directions they hadn't expected. Their energy shields were designed to stop plasma bolts, not the kinetic rounds that human weapons fired. Their formation training assumed they would be fighting in open terrain, not in a maze of urban obstacles. In London, the same scene played out. In Tokyo, Moscow, and Seoul, alien landing parties found themselves trapped in carefully prepared kill zones. The humans had turned their own cities into weapons, but the real surprise was still coming. In space, Commander Thexval watched the landing operations with growing alarm. His ground forces were reporting heavy resistance. Humans were fighting back with weapons and tactics the aliens had never seen before. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "I'm reading some unusual energy signatures near our fleet." "What kind of signatures?" Thexval demanded. That was when Admiral Dongsu Kim's voice echoed across all alien communication channels, speaking in perfect Velkari. "Commander Thexval, this is Admiral Dongsu Kim of the Earth Defense Forces. You came here expecting to find helpless prey. Instead, you found predators. Welcome to Earth." Suddenly, space around the Velkari fleet exploded with light and energy. 12 human warships materialized from nowhere, their stealth systems deactivating as they opened fire. The aliens found themselves surrounded by enemies that had been invisible moments before. Captain Taemin Lee brought Seoul's pride to full combat power. The ship's quantum cannons charged with blue fire. "Target their command bridge," he ordered. "Let's introduce ourselves properly." The first volley from the human fleet struck the alien ships with devastating precision. Humanity's weapons were designed specifically to penetrate Velkari shields. Based on 5 years of studying alien technology, the aliens' return fire was powerful but poorly aimed, designed for long-range bombardment of helpless planets, not close-quarters combat with invisible enemies. "Impossible," Thexaval roared as his flagship's shields flared under human attacks. "How did they hide so many ships? Our sensors detected nothing." His science officer was frantically checking his instruments. "Sir, these humans have technology we've never encountered before. Their ships are using some kind of quantum stealth system that makes them completely undetectable until they choose to reveal themselves." More human ships appeared as if from nowhere. The aliens realized they hadn't been fighting 12 ships. They had been fighting over 30. The humans had hidden an entire battle fleet in plain sight. Commander Jinwoo Park led a squadron of human fighter craft in a daring assault on the alien flagship's weapon systems. His small, fast ships darted between the massive Velkari vessels like angry wasps, targeting specific weak points that Dr. Hana Park's research had identified. "Their shield generators are located just behind those sensor arrays," Jinwoo told his pilots. "Hit them there, and their entire defensive grid will collapse." The human fighters attacked with surgical precision. Within minutes, the alien flagship's shields were flickering and failing. Other Valkyrie ships found themselves defenseless against human weapons they couldn't understand or predict. On Earth's surface, the alien ground forces were in full retreat. General So-Young Choi's soldiers had turned every street into a battlefield that favored human tactics. The Valkyrie were used to fighting in open space or on empty plains. They had no experience with urban warfare against an enemy that knew every alley and building. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Ko, "alien forces are requesting immediate evacuation from all surface positions. Their commander is calling for full orbital bombardment of the cities." "Let them try," Dong-Su replied grimly. "Commander Park, are you ready?" High above the planet, Commander Jin-Woo Park's fighters had just finished disabling the last of the alien weapon systems. "Ready, sir. All enemy bombardment capabilities are offline." Commander Thexval stared at his tactical displays in disbelief. In less than an hour, his invasion force had been completely neutralized. His ground troops were trapped and helpless. His space fleet was surrounded and outgunned. His weapons were offline. Most shocking of all, the humans had done it without destroying a single alien ship. They had surgically disabled the Valkyrie fleet with the precision of a doctor performing surgery. This wasn't just military victory. It was a demonstration of complete technological superiority. "Sir," his communications officer called out weakly, "the humans are sending another message." Admiral Dong-Su Kim's voice filled the alien bridge again. "Commander Thexval, your invasion has failed. Your ships are disabled, your weapons are offline, and your soldiers are surrounded. But we're not going to destroy you. Instead, we're going to send you home with a message for your hegemony." The alien commander found his voice. "What? What message?" "Tell them that Earth is not a primitive world to be conquered. We are a species that has been preparing for this moment for years. We know about your empire, your slave worlds, your conquest fleets, and we're coming to set your victims free." On screens throughout the alien fleet, images appeared showing human ships, not 12 or 30, but hundreds of them. Fleets that had been built in secret, armies that had been trained in hidden bases, weapons that had been developed fey. 2 weeks after the failed invasion of Earth, the Valkyrie hegemony was in chaos. Word of their defeat had spread across the galaxy faster than their fastest ships. For the first time in 500 years, a Valkyrie invasion fleet had been completely humiliated by a supposedly primitive species. But humanity wasn't finished. Admiral Dong-Su Kim stood on the bridge of the new flagship Terran Dawn, watching as his fleet approached the first Valkyrie slave world. This was Keth Prime, home to the Cathari people who had been enslaved for over 2 centuries. "Admiral," reported navigator Wu Jin-Nam, "we're detecting heavy Valkyrie defenses around the planet. Orbital platforms, shield generators, and at least 20 warships." Dong-Su nodded. The aliens had learned from their defeat at Earth. They were no longer underestimating human capabilities. But they still didn't fully understand what they were facing. "Captain Lee, is Seoul's pride in position?" Captain Tae-Min Lee's voice came through the communicator from his invisible ship. "Affirmative, sir. We've mapped all their defensive positions. They have no idea we're here." Behind them, the human liberation fleet waited in the darkness between star systems. 150 ships, all equipped with the new quantum stealth technology that engineer Wu Jin-Nam had perfected. The aliens could see none of them until it was too late. On the surface of Keth Prime, a Cathari slave named Bektor looked up at the stars through the bars of his prison camp. The Cathari had once been a proud species with advanced technology and a rich culture. Now they worked in Valkyrie mines, digging up rare metals for their conqueror's war machine. "Another transport ship coming in," whispered his cellmate Velka. "More of our people being taken to the deep mines." Bektor clenched his clawed hands. The deep mines were where Cathari went to die. The work was so dangerous that few survived more than a year. His own son had been taken there just last month. But tonight would be different. Tonight someone was finally coming to help. High above the planet, the Valkyrie garrison commander was reviewing his defenses. Commander Nekvil had been placed in charge of Keth Prime after the disaster at Earth. He was determined not to make the same mistakes as Thexval. "All sensor arrays at maximum power," he ordered. "If these humans try their stealth tricks here, we'll be ready for them." His confidence lasted exactly 37 seconds. That was when every single one of his orbital platforms exploded simultaneously. The humans had somehow placed precisely targeted charges on each defensive station without being detected. In half a minute, the entire orbital defense grid was reduced to floating debris. "Impossible," Nekoval shouted. How did they get past our sensors? His answer came in the form of Sol's Pride materializing directly above his flagship, so close that he could see the human ship's hull markings through his bridge windows. Captain Taman Lee had parked his invisible vessel right on top of the alien command ship and waited for the perfect moment to reveal himself. Velkari, Commander. Lee's voice echoed through the alien bridge. This is Captain Taman Lee of the Terran Liberation Forces. Your defenses have been neutralized. Surrender now and we'll allow you and your crew to leave this system alive. Around the planet, 150 human ships suddenly appeared from nowhere. The Velkari fleet found itself outnumbered 7-1 by enemies they hadn't even known were there. But this time, the humans weren't alone. Admiral Kim, came a transmission from the planet's surface. This is Resistance Leader Bektor of the Cathari Underground. We've been waiting for this day for 200 years. Our people are ready to fight alongside you. All across Keth Prime, Cathari slaves were breaking out of their camps and prisons. They had crude weapons and improvised armor, but they had something more important: the desperate courage of a people who had nothing left to lose. The battle for Keth Prime lasted only 6 hours. The Velkari garrison was overwhelmed by the combined assault of human technology and Cathari determination. When it was over, the planet was free for the first time in centuries. Ambassador Mi Kyung-yoon arrived on the next transport, along with teams of diplomats, engineers, and medical personnel. Her job was to help the newly liberated worlds organize themselves and decide their own futures. You don't owe us anything, she told the Cathari Leadership Council. We're not here to replace the Velkari as your rulers. We're here to help you become free and stay free. The Cathari couldn't believe what they were hearing. Every species they had ever encountered believed in conquest and domination. The idea of a powerful military force that wanted nothing in return was completely alien to them. But surely you want our planet's resources, said Elder Torvin, the oldest surviving Cathari leader. Our mining facilities, our manufacturing centers. Mikyung shook her head. Those belong to you. What we want is your friendship and your help in freeing other enslaved worlds. The choice is yours. Word of Keth Prime's liberation spread across the galaxy even faster than news of Earth's victory. On dozens of Velkari slave worlds, underground resistance movements began planning uprisings. Species that had lived in slavery for centuries suddenly dared to hope for freedom. The humans struck again 2 days later. This time their target was Morton 7, where the beetle-like Mortani people had been enslaved for over 300 years. The pattern was the same. Invisible human ships appeared from nowhere, neutralized the Velkari defenses, and supported a planetary uprising. But each victory taught the humans something new about their enemies and their allies. Engineer Woojin Nam studied captured Velkari technology and found ways to improve human systems. Dr. Hannah Park learned about the biology and culture of each liberated species, helping humanity understand their new allies. The Velkari aren't just conquerors, Hannah reported after studying prisoners from the Keth Prime battle. They're parasites. They don't develop their own technology anymore. Everything they use is stolen from the species they've enslaved. This explained why Velkari technology had seemed so familiar when humans first encountered it. The aliens weren't innovators. They were scavengers, taking the best ideas from their victims and combining them into their war machine. It also explained why they were losing to humanity. Humans were creators and innovators by nature. Every battle, every encounter taught them something new. They adapted and improved constantly. The Velkari had become dependent on stolen technology and couldn't match human creativity. The third liberation came at Zurhan 4, home to the crystalline Zurhani. These beings existed as living gemstones that could process information at incredible speeds. The Velkari had been using them as biological computers, forcing them to calculate hyperspace jumps and manage fleet logistics. When Captain Jin Woo Park led the Liberation Fleet to Zurhan 4, he discovered something amazing. The Zurhani had been secretly building their own resistance network, using their computational abilities to hack Velkari systems from within. We have been preparing for this moment for 57 years. 4 months and 16 days, communicated their leader, a massive purple crystal named Prime Calculator Zexhai. We knew that someday someone would come to free us. We did not expect it would be a species from beyond the hegemony's borders. The Zurhani had detailed intelligence on Velkari fleet movements, supply lines, and military strategies. They had been gathering information for decades, waiting for the right moment to strike. Combined with human military technology, this intelligence made the liberation forces nearly unstoppable. Within a month, 12 Velkari slave worlds had been liberated. Each victory brought new allies and new resources to the growing coalition. The Cathari provided industrial expertise and mining knowledge. The Mortani contributed their advanced chemistry and biological sciences. The Zurhani offered computational power that enhanced human technology beyond anything the Velkari could match. But the greatest contribution came from the slaves themselves. They had lived under Velkari rule for centuries. They knew every weakness in the alien system, every flaw in their strategies, every crack in their armor. The hegemony is built on fear, explained Bektor during a strategy meeting on board Terran Dawn. He had become the unofficial spokesperson for the liberated species. They rule through terror and overwhelming force, but they've never faced an enemy that wasn't afraid of them. Admiral Dong-Soo Kim looked out at the growing fleet surrounding his flagship. Human ships worked alongside Cathari cruisers and Mortani fighters. The combined fleet now numbered over 400 vessels, and more arrived each day as newly liberated worlds contributed their own ships to the cause. "How many more slave worlds are there?" he asked. Ambassador Mi Kyung-yoon consulted her reports. "Our best estimate is over 60 planets with enslaved populations, but there are rumors of species that were completely wiped out, and others that might be hidden in secret facilities." The magnitude of Velkari crimes was staggering. They had enslaved or destroyed hundreds of civilizations over the past 5 centuries, but now for the first time their victims had hope. Engineer Woo Jin Nam approached the Admiral with a smile on his face. "Sir, I have something to show you. We've been analyzing the technology from all the liberated worlds, combining it with our own systems." He led them to the ship's engineering section, where a new type of engine was being installed. It's a quantum-fold drive based on... The emergency session of the Velkari High Command was the most desperate meeting in their species' history. Supreme Commander Vexthal stood before a holographic display showing their crumbling empire. Red dots marked the worlds they had lost. Blue dots showed human fleet positions. The blue dots were spreading like a disease. 27 slave worlds lost in 6 weeks, reported Intelligence Chief Kolvar, his voice trembling with fear. "Our remaining garrison fleets are retreating on all fronts. The humans seem to know our movements before we make them." Vexthal's 4 eyes blazed with rage. The Velkari hegemony had ruled the galaxy for 500 years. Now they were being destroyed by a species they had never even heard of 3 months ago. "What about our allies?" he demanded. "The Sekthari have declared neutrality. The Morvek Empire has closed their borders to our ships. The Zilnaki are openly supporting the human liberation forces." Kolvar paused, then delivered the worst news of all. "Sir, some of our own colony worlds are requesting to join what they call the Terran Commonwealth." The room fell silent. Velkari colonies voluntarily joining their enemies was unthinkable. It meant their own people were abandoning them. "Enough," Vexthal roared. "Activate the Doomsday Protocol." Every Velkari in the room froze. The Doomsday Protocol was their ultimate weapon, something so terrible that they had never used it in 5 centuries of conquest. It was meant only for the complete destruction of species that posed an existential threat to Velkari survival. "Sir," whispered Defense Minister Tekran, "the psychic amplifiers haven't been tested in over a century. We don't even know if they still work." "Then we test them on Earth," Vexthal snarled. "Deploy all 3 planet killers. Bring the enslaved psychics out of stasis. If we cannot rule the galaxy, then we will destroy everyone who opposes us." Deep in the hidden fortress world of Velkara, ancient machines began to wake up. The planet killers were massive ships, each one the size of a moon. Inside them, thousands of psychic beings from extinct civilizations lay in stasis chambers, their minds enslaved to power the most terrible weapons ever created. The psychics had once belonged to species that could manipulate energy and matter with their thoughts alone. The Velkari had conquered them, enslaved them, and turned their greatest gift into a weapon of mass destruction. For centuries, these beings had been kept in artificial sleep, waiting to be awakened only for the final war. Now that war had come. Admiral Dong-Soo Kim was reviewing reports from the latest liberation when the alarm bells started ringing. Lieutenant Ye-Jin Ko looked up from her station with terror in her eyes. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures coming from the Velkari core worlds. 3 huge ships, each one over 50 kilometers long. They're heading for the Sol system. Dr. Hannah Park rushed to her computer and began analyzing the sensor data. What she found made her blood run cold. Admiral, these ships are generating psychic energy patterns unlike anything we've ever seen. The readings are impossible. They're putting out more mental energy than an entire planet full of thinking beings. How long until they reach Earth? Dongsu asked quietly. Ko checked her calculations twice before answering. 18 hours, sir. Across the galaxy, the human liberation fleet began racing toward Earth. But even with their new quantum-fold drives, many ships would not arrive in time. The fastest vessels might make it to Earth with only minutes to spare. Captain Taemin Lee pushed Sol's pride harder than ever before, but he knew they were not going to reach Earth in time to help with the initial defense. The same was true for most of the Liberation Fleet. They had been spread across dozens of star systems, freeing enslaved worlds, when the planet killers began their final assault. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Bo-Ram Shin took command of the Home Defense Forces. She had only 37 ships available, plus the orbital defense platforms that had been built around Earth, Mars, and Luna. Against 3 planet killers powered by enslaved psychics, it didn't seem like nearly enough. All ships, this is Admiral Shin, she broadcast to the defense fleet. We know what we're facing. We know the odds. But we also know that behind us are 8 billion human beings who are counting on us to protect them. We will not let them down. The planet killers emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system like harbingers of doom. Each one bristled with weapons that could crack a planet's surface. But their most terrible power was invisible. The psychic energy that could drive entire populations insane or simply stop their hearts from beating. Supreme Commander. Vex Thul commanded the operation from the lead planet killer. He watched Earth growing larger on his screens and felt a savage satisfaction. Soon the troublesome humans would be nothing but cosmic dust. Begin psychic bombardment, he ordered. Drive their defenders mad. Make them turn on each other. Show them what happens to species that defy the hegemony. The enslaved psychics were awakened from their centuries of forced sleep. Their minds, twisted by torture and conditioning, reached out across space toward Earth. Waves of mental energy rolled toward the blue planet like invisible tsunamis. But something unexpected happened. Dr. Sun Ho Jiang was monitoring the psychic attack from his laboratory in Seoul when he noticed the first anomaly. The alien mental energy was having no effect on most humans. Instead of driving people insane, the psychic waves seemed to bounce off human minds like light reflecting from a mirror. Admiral Shin, he reported excitedly, the psychic attack is failing. Human brain patterns are naturally resistant to their mental manipulation. Our thoughts are too chaotic, too unpredictable. They can't get a grip on our minds. This was completely unexpected. Every other species the Velkari had encountered had been vulnerable to psychic control. The enslaved psychics had been able to dominate the thoughts of any intelligent being they encountered. But human consciousness was different. Wild, random, impossible to predict or control. The Velkari had studied dozens of sapient species. All of them thought in organized, logical patterns that could be manipulated by psychic influence. But humans were different. Human minds jumped randomly from thought to thought, mixed logic with emotion, and maintained dozens of contradictory ideas simultaneously. To a psychic trying to take control, human consciousness was like trying to grab smoke with bare hands. Supreme Commander Vex Thul stared at his tactical displays in disbelief. What do you mean the psychic attack isn't working? These weapons have never failed before. His psychic coordinator, an enslaved being from the extinct Talvari species, struggled to explain. The human minds resist domination, Master. Their thoughts are chaotic, unpredictable. We cannot find purchase in their consciousness. But the planet killers had other weapons. Vex Thul ordered a direct assault with conventional firepower. Massive energy beams lanced out toward Earth, each one powerful enough to boil away oceans and shatter continents. That was when Major Yu Jin Song led the most desperate mission in human history. Song commanded a special forces unit trained for zero-gravity combat. Their mission was considered impossible: board the planet killers and disable them from within. 36 soldiers in powered armor, racing toward ships the size of moons, hoping to somehow stop weapons that could destroy worlds. Remember, Song told her troops as their assault shuttles approached the nearest planet killer. These ships are powered by enslaved psychics. Our job isn't to destroy the ship. It's to free the prisoners who are being forced to power it. The boarding operation was like something from a nightmare. The planet killer's hull was defended by automated systems that filled space with deadly energy beams. Half of Song's shuttles were destroyed before they could reach the surface. But the survivors managed to cut their way inside the massive vessel. What they found there was beyond horrifying. Thousands of psychic beings from dozens of extinct species were kept in stasis chambers. Their minds constantly drained of energy to power the ship's weapons. Many had been enslaved for centuries. Some had been prisoners since they were children. "My God," whispered Sergeant Hyun-Soo Bae as he saw the endless rows of prison chambers. How many civilizations did they destroy to build this thing? Major Song was already working on the stasis controls. "Focus on the mission, Sergeant. We free these prisoners and the ship loses power. Without psychic energy, this thing is just a big metal asteroid." But freeing enslaved psychics was more complicated than flipping a switch. Dr. Sun Ho Jang had to guide them through the process by radio, explaining how to safely wake beings who had been artificially sleeping for decades or centuries. The first psychic they freed was a Talvari named Zareth, who had been enslaved for over 200 years. When he woke up and realized he was being freed by the very species the Velkari were trying to destroy, his reaction was immediate and decisive. "Brothers and sisters," he called out psychically to the other enslaved beings. "The humans have come to free us. They are immune to our captors' mental control. Help them wake us and we can turn our power against our enslavers." One by one, the enslaved psychics awakened, and one by one, they turned their abilities against the Velkari crews that had tormented them for centuries. Velkari minds, unlike human minds, were completely vulnerable to psychic attack. Within minutes, the alien crew of the first planet killer was unconscious or dead. The massive ship's weapons. Admiral Dong-Soo Kim stood on the bridge of Terran Dawn, looking at the holographic display showing the entire galaxy. Red dots marked worlds where the Velkari had threatened to activate planet-cracking weapons. There were 47 of them, home to over 30 billion sentient beings. Supreme Commander Vexthal, out is serious about his threat, reported Dr. Hana. "Park, our intelligence suggests the Velkari have placed devastating weapons on each of their remaining worlds. If they activate them, the death toll will be beyond imagination." But humanity was no longer the species that had once hidden from alien detection. Over the past months, they had liberated dozens of worlds, freed countless enslaved beings, and built the largest coalition the galaxy had ever seen. They had also learned something important about themselves. When faced with impossible odds, humans didn't surrender. They got creative. "How long do we have?" Kim asked. Lieutenant Yejin Ko checked her communications panel. "The Velkari are demanding our complete withdrawal within 72 hours. If we don't abandon all liberated worlds and return to Earth, they'll start destroying planets." Ambassador McKyoung-yoon was already coordinating with the liberated species. The Cathari, Mortani, Zurhani, and dozens of other races had committed their entire fleets to the final operation. What had started as a human liberation campaign had become a galaxy-wide revolution. "Admiral," came the voice of Captain Taemin Lee from Seoul's Pride. "We've completed our reconnaissance of all 47 target worlds. The planet crackers are heavily defended, but we've found weaknesses in their security systems. This was where the freed psychics became humanity's greatest allies. The beings who had been enslaved to power the planet killers now used their abilities to help the liberation forces. They could detect Velkari thoughts, predict alien strategies, and even influence the minds of enemy commanders. Zareth, the Talvari psychic who had been the first to be freed, contacted Kim directly through thought. "Admiral, my people and I have been analyzing Velkari psychology. We understand how their leaders think. They are not prepared for what you are planning." What Kim was planning was the most audacious military operation in galactic history. Simultaneous assaults on 47 different worlds coordinated to the second, designed to disable the planet crackers before they could be activated. It required perfect timing, flawless execution, and more luck than any reasonable person should expect. But humans had never been particularly reasonable. President Jae-hwan. Lee addressed the combined fleets from Earth. His speech was broadcast to every ship in the Liberation Armada, and to resistance cells on Velkari worlds throughout the galaxy. 3 months ago, we were a species that had never traveled beyond our own solar system. Today, we lead a coalition of free peoples fighting against tyranny on a galactic scale, not because we sought power, but because we could not stand by while others suffered under oppression. He paused, looking directly into the camera that would carry his words to species across the galaxy. The Velkari think they can force us to retreat by threatening innocent lives. They believe that our compassion is weakness, that our desire to protect others will make us surrender. They are wrong. Our compassion is our strength. Our willingness to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves is what makes us unstoppable. The operation began at exactly midnight, Galactic Standard Time. On 47 worlds simultaneously, human stealth ships appeared in the skies. Each assault team had been carefully chosen for their specific mission. Engineer Wujin Nam's quantum fold technology allowed the entire Liberation fleet to strike every target at the same moment, giving the Velkari no time to react or coordinate their response. Major Yujin Song led the assault on the Velkari homeworld itself. This was the most heavily defended planet in their empire, protected by orbital fortresses and thousands of automated defense systems. It was also where Supreme Commander Vexithol had retreated after his capture and subsequent escape during a prisoner transfer. Remember, Song told her assault teams as they descended toward the planet's surface, "Our job isn't to conquer this world. It's to disable their central command system. Without communication between worlds, they can't coordinate the planet cracker activation." The battle for the Velkari homeworld was brutal. The aliens fought with the desperation of a species facing extinction, but they were facing an enemy they still didn't fully understand. Human soldiers didn't just fight with superior technology. They fought with the knowledge that billions of innocent lives depended on their success. Sergeant Yeon-su Bei led a squad through the underground tunnels beneath the Velkari capital city. Their target was the main communications hub that controlled the planet cracker network. If they could disable it, the weapons on other worlds would be cut off from their command structure. "Contacts ahead," whispered one of his soldiers. 20 Velkari guards, heavy weapons. "Remember what Dr. Park taught us about their psychology?" Bei replied. "They expect us to retreat when faced with superior numbers. Let's give them a surprise." Instead of falling back or seeking cover, the human squad charged directly into the alien position. The Velkari, programmed by centuries of conquest to expect their enemies to be intimidated by their superior firepower, were completely unprepared for troops who got more dangerous when the odds were against them. The communications hub fell within minutes. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on dozens of worlds. Human forces, supported by liberated species and guided by freed psychics, struck at the heart of the Velkari defense network. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to be everywhere at once, attacking from directions they hadn't anticipated, using tactics they couldn't predict. But the most important battle was taking place in space above the Velkari homeworld. Fleet Admiral Bo-Ram Shin commanded the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. Over 800 ships from dozens of species, all working together with perfect coordination. The Velkari orbital defenses were powerful, but they were designed to fight against conventional enemies using predictable strategies. They were not prepared for an attack led by liberated psychics who could predict their every move. Admiral Shin reported Zarath. From his position aboard the flagship, the enemy commanders are preparing to activate the planet crackers as a final act of spite. They know they cannot win, so they intend to take as many innocent lives as possible with them. This was the moment everyone had feared. Even if the liberation forces won every battle, the Velkari might still succeed in their genocidal threat. But humanity had one more surprise waiting. "Activate the quantum communication network," Bo-Ram ordered. Engineer Wujin Nam had been working on this technology since the war began. It was based on Zurhani computational abilities combined with human innovation and Cathari manufacturing techniques. The result was an instantaneous communication system that could reach every world in the galaxy simultaneously. "President Jae Hwan," Lee's voice suddenly echoed from every communication device on every Velkari world. "Citizens of the hegemony," he said calmly, "this is President Jae Hwan Lee of Earth. Your leaders are planning to destroy your worlds rather than accept defeat. You have a choice. Stand with them and die, or stand with us and live free." The effect was immediate and devastating. On world after world, Velkari colonists and military personnel turned against their own commanders rather than participate in mass suicide. The threat to activate planet crackers crumbled as the people who would have to carry out those orders refused to obey. Supreme Commander Vexithol found himself alone in his command bunker, his officers having abandoned him, his communications cut off, his empire collapsing around him. When Major Yujin Song's troops finally reached him, he was sitting in his command chair, staring at screens showing the liberation of his people. "It's over," Song told him simply. Vexthul looked up at her with all four eyes filled with a mixture of hatred and exhausted defeat. "You don't understand what you've done. The hegemony brought order to the galaxy. Without us there will be chaos, war, destruction." "Maybe," Song replied, "but there will also be freedom, and that's worth the risk." The formal surrender came 3 days later. The remaining Velkari military commanders, abandoned by their political leaders and their own people, agreed to a complete ceasefire in exchange for guarantees that their species would not be enslaved or exterminated. Admiral Dong-Soo Kim accepted the surrender aboard Terran Dawn, with representatives from every liberated species present as witnesses. The ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy, marking the end of 5 centuries of Velkari domination, but the real work was just beginning. Ambassador Mi Kyung. Yoon found herself coordinating the establishment of what would become known as the Terran Commonwealth. It wasn't an empire based on conquest, but a voluntary association of free worlds working together for mutual benefit. "We're not here to rule you," she told the representatives of former Velkari colonies. "We're here to help you rule yourselves." The response was overwhelming. Species that had been enslaved for centuries didn't know how to govern themselves. Velkari colonies that had never known freedom needed help establishing democratic institutions. Even some Velkari worlds, tired of their leaders' endless wars, requested to join the Commonwealth. Within a year, the Terran Commonwealth,